I'd like to welcome you to ITM 352, Web Applications Programming and Information Systems Technologies. And I'd like also to welcome you to the MIS program. Presumably you're taking this class because you're interested in majoring in management of information systems. This first class is really going to introduce you to the construction of information systems and introduce you to a number of different technologies useful for managing and building information systems. Information systems are not singular applications. By that we mean that today's software that we use is quite complicated and actually built on a whole number of different technologies and frameworks for which you need to be aware. It's probably no surprise that most information systems are networked and can communicate with each other. They are built on a common variety of frameworks that you make it easy to use and extend. They integrate a number of different components, and they also integrate with other systems. Information systems also frequently have a lot of end-user development, which allows the user, not a specialist or software developer, to be able to modify or extend the system itself. And information systems tend to be not centrally managed anymore. They tend to be a combination of things that are interacting with servers and mostly run on clients. So management of information systems have changed over the years to becoming not so much about developing technologies, but more being a business technologist, where they understand how to apply technology to meet business needs, adapt technologies quickly, and learn technologies that might be useful in a business situation. Make tactical and strategic management of technology in an organization. So 352 is really about that first step in becoming a technologist, and mainly that's going to be acquiring basic programming skills. We're also going to try to understand why you need and can use your basic programming skills and knowledge as an information systems specialist. You're going to get some hands-on experience in developing actual software applications. In fact, we're going to build web applications, and that perhaps also will be networked and integrated with various components and utilize a variety of different technologies, just like it does in the real world. You're going to experience real-world technology problems, and you're going to experience technology development issues. Boy, are you going to develop you're going to experience a lot of those. The main point about 352 is to gain confidence and have rapidly learning information systems and information systems technologies for addressing business technology problems. I have to warn you, it's not going to be easy. The main challenge for 352 is to learn how to code. This is not necessarily a natural thing, and people don't learn it right away. Programming is a skill, and it's a very useful skill that could be quite valuable, especially in today's business settings. However, you have to work very hard to get it. So we're going to get you started in this class, but surely you'll need more. A lot of misconceptions about 352 is that it's only about programming. Of course, that's a large part of it, but there's going to be things like system administration, project management, collaborations with others, and dealing with a lot of different technologies and frameworks that have very little to do with programming and more to do with applications of things like networking and security. Some people think you have to have prior programming experience to be successful in 352. That is not true. It's designed for those who have no programming experience. In fact, if you have some programming experience, you'll probably find 352 quite a bit easier, but still challenging in many respects. Some people think that you can take 352 and it does not require a serious and sustained time investment. That's not true. Unlike other courses, you will expect to work every week, at least probably 9 hours a week outside of class, just working on basic programming and other preparation for labs and various other things that you need to do. There's quite a bit of self-learning, and you'll have to do quite a bit of effort outside of class. The good thing is that it's not hard to get a good grade. Some people think it's very difficult to get a good grade. It's not hard to get a good grade. One of the things that you need to do if you want to get a good grade in the 52 is just do all the work and do it all on time. And don't try to take shortcuts. And for God's sakes, don't try to copy other people's code and turn it in as your own. Another thing about 352 is that people think the professor isn't willing to help you when you have trouble. That's exactly what we're here for. Less so for actually teaching you any particular programming concepts. We're actually here mostly to help you when you're having trouble. And I have to say, we enjoy working with you one-on-one, even if it's just by email. Now, you might question, why do I need to learn anything about programming if I'm going to be a manager of information systems? New students sometimes are quite intimidated by the MIS major because they think it involves too much programming. They're going to say, well, when am I going to have to do this on the job? Programming isn't for me. I don't like it. After this class, I'll never code again because it was too hard. Well, we have to stress that what we're really trying to do as an MIS major is to help you provide you an understanding of programming, because in your job as an MIS major or as an MIS career, you'll be acquiring, adapting, and implementing software technologies, and you need to understand very well how these technologies are made and how you might need to adapt them or make choices on what to use. So you actually don't need to be an expert programmer to be successful in MIS, but you definitely have to have some knowledge and some understanding of how it works, even if it's simply that you're going to be acquiring some software and hiring a company perhaps to work with you on that, and you need to be a very good customer. You may not ever become a full-time programmer, but for most MIS program areas, programming skills will be needed. So if you're going to do database administration or management or reporting for things like using SQL or Crystal reports, something like that, you'll find there's quite a lot of programming-like activities that you're going to be involved in. Similarly for networking, if you're going to be a network administrator or something like that, you'll find that there's a lot of scripting and configuration things and technologies that require a bit of programming knowledge. There's certainly a great deal of end-user computing. So for example, a lot of companies spend quite a bit of time and effort on their spreadsheets, and they live and die by their spreadsheets, and they will usually refer to an MIS person to help manage or update or perhaps fix various problems in their spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are not simply just numbers on a page, but they often require a fair amount of programming. Of course, there's the web. If you have websites or web apps or any internet apps or intranet apps, that's going to require also some knowledge of programming. Any sort of data management that's going to require conversions or formatting or cleaning or checking, importing and export, once again, may involve some programming. You may find yourself being a tester of products, software products or tools, and you're going to end up having to do test scripts and doing analyses and things like that, for which you're going to have to do some programming. And any kind of systems tools and system maintenance also may involve programming. Programming actually will provide you quite a bit of an advantage. It'll help you think more logically and effectively about technology. It'll give you an advantage and give you more options in addressing technology issues. This is why it's one of the core courses in the MIS major, is because it'll provide you those options and opportunities. You'll have a deeper understanding of technology and ability to apply the technology to solving problems and know the limits of what it can and cannot do. You'll also enjoy building something that's just from a concept and having the ability to construct an application or utility when you need it. You'll also become a technology leader, better equipped to consult on work with technology acquisition and maintenance, understanding whether you should buy versus build or make upgrades or buy some components or make use of frameworks, how to deal with legacies versus replacing them. All these things, again, you'll have an advantage on when you acquire some programming skills. You'll also be able to make advanced use of many application building tools, things like WordPress and Facebook and Buildfire and Wix and Weebly. All those things make it look like they're really just point and click, but underneath it, those who know how to do some programming can actually make them function as they are intended. ITM 352 is your first step in the MIS core, for which we're going to talk about systems technologies. You're going to think about the inner workings of software, technical thinking and problem solving, programming for business applications, technical considerations of using and building systems, providing technology leadership, and mainly taking a very computer-centric perspective on information systems. Once you finish 352, you'll take 353, which is systems management, for which you'll learn about the development process and managing development, bridging the gap between people and technology, and organizational considerations in building and managing systems. And again, more team technology leadership rather than individual technology leadership. And then mainly from a developer perspective. After 353, you'll take 354, which is systems information management, which is going to be mainly about database management, but also about information management in general. Solving data access and sharing problems, bridging the gap between information systems and the actual information itself. Also, you'll take mainly a organizational perspective. So that's the MIS core. Again, you're just taking the first step on this journey. So I'm not going to lie to you, programming is really tough. It's really hard to learn how to program. It's not going to be easy for you. You're going to have to earn it. You'll have to work at it a lot. You can't study and just hope to acquire it. It's something you just need to do and practice a lot. Mastery requires more training than it does any sort of understanding of things. You'll always be incomplete and you'll always need to improve, and it'll be hard to see the improvements you make. So again, learning a program is going to be quite tough. It can be quite painful. It can be very frustrating when things just don't work, or you just don't even know what to do or how to start. You could spend hours and hours and hours on something and realize you went down completely the wrong way or didn't understand something. The practice can be quite tedious. So you'll be writing these programs, and sometimes you'll be wondering, why am I practicing writing over and over again the same thing? Another thing about skills and programming being a skill is that if you don't practice it, the skill will decay. So after this class, one would hope that you would continue your programming, improving your programming, and keeping your skills current by continuing to take on projects that will allow you to practice programming, because if you don't, you'll find quickly that it'll disappear. You're often going to find that you'll hit walls and be frustrated and will feel like you're not making any progress. You also have to kind of learn how to learn and learn differently and quickly about technologies, because things are going to be changing a lot. New programming languages come up all the time, and new frameworks and applications and refinements. You'll have to learn how to learn quickly what you're going to need to know. No one class is going to make it the be-all for end-all for everything you need to know about not just programming but MIS. You're going to have to learn to be very persistent and not let mistakes and gaps in your knowledge hold you back. What you'll have to do is figure out ways to get past those problems. Being persistent, not giving up, and not doubting yourself. Eventually, with enough effort, you will manage to get through any of the problems that you have. Then good thing is once you obtain basic competence, you actually might start to enjoy it. You'll actually find it's kind of fun to see things come together, and that you were the one who made that happen. And you'll find it's quite valuable. It'll open up many opportunities for you. Programming has a number of different levels of skill. In this class, we're going to only go through sort of 3 of these levels. We're going to start by looking at the syntactic idea of programming, which is just kind of how programming statements are put together, how to tell the computer what to do so that it understands. The next thing is, once you understand the syntactic side of programming, you need to learn the algorithmic side. And the algorithmic side would be, how do I put statements together to actually solve a problem? Something that the computer doesn't even know it's doing. Once you figure out the algorithmic kind of thinking, then you move on to the application side, which is you have to put a bunch of different algorithms together to provide sort of a coherent or cohesive set of functionalities. And that's pretty much where we're going to end in 352. We're going to kind of climb these mountains. Each one of these ones will take quite a bit of effort to get to. So at first you'll kind of know nothing, and then quickly, at some point, suddenly you'll know what's going on. And then you'll have to work hard and not see much progress for a while, and then suddenly again you'll have a good understanding. And then you'll work even harder and for a longer period of time, and finally start to climb this tall mountain up to the application skill level. After this class, you might go on and start thinking more about systems thinking and working on systems programming, for which another long set of activities and quite a steep climb to get there. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to work really, really hard to obtain web application competency in an MIS context. We're really going to be focused on applications, on how to do something and things that make sense for business. We're not going to really focus so much on the particular technologies or why they're done this way, or how to develop new technologies. So basically, in our class, we're going to construct web applications like e-commerce systems. It's only an example of the kind of MIS programming that happens to be compatible with your business focus. So it's not all about e-commerce systems, it's just an example. We're going to look at front-end applications that work on the client, and they're going to develop them in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We're also going to eventually start looking at back-end services that communicate with clients and provide server-side applications that are going to be using JavaScript and Node.js. It's really all good stuff that we're going to be doing, but mostly it's a vehicle for getting to focus on programming skills that are useful in an agent of information systems context. The aim is to really get you to put you on a path to be a technologist. The particular technologies, frameworks, programming languages, etc. are just useful tools to help you achieve your business information system goals and capabilities. Eventually, it shouldn't really matter what technologies, frameworks, and programming languages. It doesn't matter that we're just learning JavaScript. It shouldn't matter, because eventually it would be any programming language would be something that, if necessary, you would be able to pick up and use. We frequently discuss different technology issues beyond programming, such as good and poor programming, systems design, why should I buy versus build this, how do I manage the requirements, how do I understand what the requirements are, etc. Things that will start introducing you what you're going to be doing in some of your other classes after 352. Our main tools that we're going to be using for programming is going to be JavaScript and something called Node.js. So we're going to be learning those things, and these will enable you to build the leading edge of web applications technology. So this is the absolute most modern, useful kinds of things you'll find out. So people often talk about, oh, should I be learning Java? Should I be learning Python, etc., etc. These days, you're very well served just learning JavaScript. It's come a long way, and it's rapidly becoming one of the most useful and prevalent programming languages. There's literally tens of thousands of available components, frameworks, and microservices that are built in JavaScript and useful for JavaScript, and in particular Node.js. You can go here and take a look at some of the amazing things that Node can do for you. There's also some useful, this website here shows you some interesting things, javascripting.com, that you can do in JavaScript. You can really build some quite awesome things in JavaScript and Node, and here's some projects, 7 awesome things that you can build in Node.js. I encourage you to take a look at them. One thing to keep in mind here is that in 352 you are becoming educated. Even though there's quite a bit of training involved in it, it's not going to be a step-by-step kind of memorize this. Really, you strive for fundamental understanding and insight, because that's the thing that's going to enable you to work on your own. We're not trying to build your technical we're trying to build your technical problem solving skills. So try to avoid getting into the mode where you're looking for how-to recipes. Don't expect the professor to tell you this is how you do this. Step 1, step 2, step 3, right? And because the problem with that is that you'll rarely see the same problem twice. So even if the professor does show you, here's how you do this, here's how you do that, here's how you do that, you'll find that what you need to do is something not quite exactly the same, and then those steps that you were given won't work. You're never going to know enough. There's always going to be something new, and things change really fast. So you have to learn how to learn technical stuff very quickly. There's going to be a ton of self-teaching. So we do provide you many opportunities to do a lot of self-teaching, because that's what you're going to be doing after this class is over. And in your own career, you'll be doing a lot of self-teaching, not so much relying on taking a course that tells you exactly what to do. You're going to always be challenged, and so having confidence is critical. You'll eventually, if you put enough effort into it, you're very capable of making things work and learning what you need to do. The technical problem solving skill is a skill that you only get good at through lots and lots of practice. Nobody can give it to you. It's something you have to earn. Everybody's going to hit a wall, or many walls at some point. Just realize that when you hit a wall, it's an opportunity, not an obstacle. It's an opportunity for you to learn, and once you get past it, you'll be very happy. So, the class objectives are to become familiar with basic programming. By the end of the class, you really do need to demonstrate that you acquired rudimentary programming skills if you're going to be successful. You demonstrate that by being successful with the 3 programming applications that are going to be assigned in this class. You're going to have to understand how basic system development concepts, the basic system development concepts, the technology solutions, and development management. The things like repositories and code commenting and things like that you have to do. You'll learn more about this in 353, but you get your start here. We're also going to be getting under the hood of web applications. So it's not just about programming. You're going to have to learn a little bit about networking, client-server architectures, various components and frameworks, configurations, security issues, user interface design, database stuff, and systems quality assurance, how to match to use, and testing various different kinds of things. There's a whole lot of other things that you're going to be experiencing. Many of these things you'll go into depth more later in your other courses, such as 354 and ITM 481, but will be introduced here. So you can go see the course syllabus on our course website. Our main website, our main course is actually going to be hosted on GitHub pages, and you can see here it is dport96.github.io, ITM 352, and you can see here's a basic schedule of the things we're going to go through. You can find that at our website under the schedule. There's going to be 2, a dynamic schedule and master schedule. Master schedule sort of gives you an overview. Dynamic schedule is because we will update that as we progress. You also want to take a look at the modules. So if we go to our class website here, you can see that we'll have a number of different modules that we cover during the class. Here's the whole thing. Starting with web application development tools, as we'll do later this week. Looking at user interface basics, dynamic web pages. Then we learn the basics of programming, variables, expressions, algorithms, branching, arrays. Talk a little bit about debugging, and then we'll do about form processing to build applications. Well, after we do that, we'll have our very first programming assignment, which is going to be building an e-commerce store. Then we talk about file I/O, Then you'll have assignment 2. Then we'll talk about cookies in session. Then you have assignment 3. There's probably not going to be an assignment 4. That's here from the way that we used to teach the class. If we have time, we'll talk about database applications and application security. There's no textbook in this class, but there's a lot of references. You can see at this link here, there's quite a number of references that you can use, such as an HTML tutorial, CSS tutorial, JavaScript tutorial. But you'll find that online there's just a bazillion useful free resources for you. Software that you're going to need is, of course, a web browser. We prefer Chrome, but you can use Firefox. And Safari could be okay. We're also going to make use of Visual Studio Code, which is free from Microsoft. You'll learn about how to download that. Node.js, also free. CyberDuck, another free piece of software. And some other miscellaneous tools and packages that you might need to download and install as desired or required. You need some decent computer. Macs are fine or PCs are fine. Both of them are okay, but you might need to have something that's not too old and has a rather large screen. Preferably multiple screens so that you can watch what's going on and perform work on another screen at the same time. It's going to be 3 major programming assignments. You can look at the schedule for the approximate locations in the class. At first you're going to work individually, but later in the semester we may allow you to work in groups. Groups may be randomly assigned or perhaps self-selected. Whenever you have an assignment, they're always going to be deployed on a class server, which we'll talk about later. So in addition to just being able to run on your own machine, you have to demonstrate that it's actually workable and running on a web server. You also need to put your code in the GitHub repository, provide a screencast demo of it, and an explanation of your code. More on that later. You'll also have these things called workouts of the day. Well, maybe like workouts of the week, I guess. But there's going to be a number of small programming assignments where they're used to build your skill, and you're going to get a lot out of these if you put a lot into it. So what you're going to do, we'll talk about this later, but basically you'll be given a set of instructions based on some topic that we're working on in class. And then you're going to be challenged to try to construct it. But while you're constructing it, you need to record yourself, time yourself, and see if you can finish it within a certain amount of time. If you can't, you'll need to start over and then try it again. Sometimes if you get stuck, you may be given some hints or maybe a screencast solution that you can follow. The important thing is that these things are going to be building your skill, and so they're an important self-check on your skill development. We don't use them to assess your work. You just get credit for doing them. They're not going to be graded on any sort of scale. So if you skip them or just copy something from someone else, then you're only cheating yourself on these, because you need the skill that you get from the workouts of the day to be able to progress in the assignments. There's not going to be any exams in this class, but you're going to be expected to work on the lab after or during the screencast to make sure you're prepared for class. The labs are going to be checked and graded, and you're not going to be able to follow along in class unless you started the lab before class. Labs must be completed and submitted on time, and we're not going to accept any late labs, because after we finish one lab, the next one will build on the previous. So the skills that you had from the previous lab will be used for the subsequent ones. So you really can't skip anything. The course website will tell you an approximate grade breakdown, but basically if you get over 90% of all the points, you're going to get an A in this class. 80% a B, 70% a C. So anybody can get an A. The class is not graded on a curve, but you do need to earn it. You will find yourself running into trouble and finding it may be difficult for you to complete certain assignments or labs. So what you're going to need to do is get help early and often. Do all the work and don't take any shortcuts. If you do that, you'll find yourself sliding down this grade scale very quickly. Your progress will be continuously posted on the class website, so you do know where you're doing, how you're doing in this class. And if you're having trouble, don't wait to the end of the semester to try to catch up. get the help right away that you need. If you're not doing as well as you'd like, there's going to always be extra credit opportunities for you to make up for things perhaps that you fell short on. The lectures are generally going to be available on the class webpage and are going to be viewed at home prior to class. We do not do a lot of lecturing in class. However, skipping the lectures will make the in-class labs very difficult to follow. Because the screencasts, even though there's going to be a fair amount of readings and other backgrounds, the screencasts themselves will actually be directed towards doing the labs. The readings are also need to be done at home prior to class. They're very important reference materials for you. No one will expect you to have mastered everything, but you do need to do the readings to become familiar with that so that you can go back and refer to those things later if you need to, which you probably will. Most of the classes will be kind of follow-along labs with the professor, class exercises, or major assignment workshops, for which we get into class and you'll be hands-on doing things. It's not going to be just sitting back listening to me talking, except of course this one. So how can you do well in 352? Well, just attend class, ask lots of questions, get help when you need it. It's pretty simple. Do all the assignments, especially the workouts of the day. Don't skip anything. Make sure you plan, make time to do these things. They will take you time and they will take you effort. So when you go to class, of course, pay attention. Especially if it's online, you're going to have trouble paying attention sometimes. There'll be a lot of distractions. Don't be afraid to play, share your insights with others, and if you get stuck, don't worry about holding the class up. Ask for help. Always try to find something interesting about the material, and don't forget, try to go above and beyond. That's always going to take you the extra step. And try not to worry too much about things. You know, it's very difficult. We know it's difficult. So just have confidence in yourself, and you'll get there. Lateness, well, we don't accept late programming assignments. They're going to be heavily penalized if you start submitting things late. The reason why we can't accept them late is because, again, it's a progression. One thing builds on the other. And if you turn something late, it just makes you late for the next thing. So it's very important that you keep up. Don't cheat in this class. There's a lot of ways you can cheat. It's only cheating yourself. And one of the main forms of cheating is basically copying somebody else's work. You go find somebody else's work either online or in class, and you just change the name and submit it as your own. Not only is this very easy to detect, it's also not helpful for you at all. So if we detect that you're cheating, we'll zero you out on your first offense, which is already going to put you at a major disadvantage on your grade. Second one, we also send a notice to the dean's office to let you know about this. So we're quite serious about this. If you show any signs of doing this again, we're going to just fail you in the class. The point is, it's really not worth doing it. If you put the work into this class, you will learn what you need to learn and you'll get a good grade. Especially since you're trying to build a skill here, don't try to take any shortcuts. It is actually okay to look at other people's code. It's okay to even copy other code and adapt it and use it. You just have to properly reference what you did. Make sure you give credit for it, and make sure that you actually understood what you were copying and that you did the suitable amount of work to modify it to make it your own. So, how to fail 352, just submitting other people's work, not doing work, and acquiring any sort of other solutions beforehand, which is really not difficult to do, but you don't want to do it. And certainly don't enable or encourage anyone else to do the above. So we're pretty serious about this. It's okay to work together with other people in the class, but don't enable them by just giving them things that they should need to be doing themselves. Workouts of the day, mandatory. You have to submit them on Lalima and on GitHub to receive credit. You're going to have to complete it before the DNF time, or the did not finish time, and before the due date. This is something you're going to do on your own. We'll talk more about that later. Fortunately, it's not a terribly stressful situation. You're kind of putting yourself under your own pressure, and it's just a credit, no credit situation for which you put the effort in, you'll get rewarded for it. During the class, you're going to be asked to do lab exercises and assignments. We typically won't complete them all during the class time. It's important to come to class prepared to do the labs. That means you have to have looked at all the lab exercises, maybe even started on them before class. During class, we'll work on the labs and we'll try to work out any problems that we may be having. After class, you'll have some time to try to clean it up, finalize it, and then submit it. You need to do the readings and view the lecture screencast before class. I have to emphasize this again because it's amazing how many people just want to show up to class and say, I'm ready. You'll find that it's very difficult to do if you do that. In class, you need to interact. It's very important, and periodically I will bother you with questions to see whether you're understanding and whether you are prepared for class. Your answers don't have to be correct, but you do need to be aware that you're going to be challenged sometimes so that we understand where we're at and whether you are prepared. Keep in mind that there's the Information Technology Management Association Club that's here to help you succeed the 352. I'm also here to help you succeed the 352, so come see me or the TA or an ITMA club member right away if you need any help. And we have a lot of ways you can access us. Probably the easiest is by email. We will always make time to help you, always, but you do have to ask. I am not going to monitor you. I can't read your mind and know whether you're failing or having problems in class. You need to tell me. We do want to see each and every one of you succeed in 52 and enjoy the experience, but it really is entirely up to you to make this happen. So final words, programming is not a memorization subject. You have to immerse yourself in it until you know the fundamental process. You have to practice, 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 and practice again. You're going to be continually challenged and frustrated with your lack of progress. Just learn to enjoy the ride. Ask lots of questions, practice some more, and get help when you need it. Eventually, you will fully comprehend the concepts and you will do very well. You don't have to be a stellar programmer to do well in this class. You simply need to be proficient in the fundamental practice of programming. Keep in mind that 352 will take up a significant amount of your time, probably more so than your other classes. You will be well rewarded for this effort, but you have to plan for it. If you are not in a position to take a class that's going to demand a lot of your time and effort, then please do not take this class now. I mean that. Make sure you take a good hard look. If you're taking 6 classes, you got a full-time job, you got family obligations and any number of other things going on, maybe 352 is not ready. You're not ready to take 352. You really need to dedicate significant amounts of heads down time on your computer working on programs. It will take a lot of time. It will take a lot of effort. It's not like your other courses, and this is something that won't let up. It's going to be throughout the entire semester. Bottom line is, if you want killer programming skills and to become a technology leader, then you just need to do a lot of programming. So this class will immerse you in that and get you on your way. It's certainly not going to be enough, but it'll be a very good start. Next class, of course, you have to bring your laptop. We're going to go through the Web Application Development Technologies module. We'll take a look at that now. And we'll cover some experiential learnings in the class. And the readings are critical. And we'll work on assignment E0. Actually, we'll start working on that now. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is create a first assignment, actually, is create an MIS portfolio and get used to some of these web application technologies. So we're going to go build a professional MIS portfolio. We're going to do this to introduce yourself to the class and start building your professional portfolio for your future. A lot of technical skills you need to learn about. It's going to help jumpstart you on this, and you're not expected to know everything. Just realize you're going to be baffled and lost. This is a great time for you to be asking questions and persevere through any problems you're having. You're also going to write a number of essays during the course, and those short essays about your experience with you will be posted on your portfolio as a kind of a blog entry. So the assignment 0 or SA0 technologies are going to be GitHub and GitHub pages. So you're going to need to go get an account, understand what a repository is, and how to use GitHub as a web server. You're going to learn about JSON, or the JavaScript object notation, which is going to be used for building your portfolio. A little bit about the YAML configuration notation, a little bit about the Markdown syntax, and this technology called Tuckfolios. Let's take a quick look at that, see what you need to do. So you go to our class website here, and go into modules, and under Introduction, you'll see there is an About GitHub, which you should be reading, and all these other things: preparing for 352, policy and grading, references, and master schedule. So if you haven't done those, please read those now. Here's the MIS portfolio. So the MIS portfolio, to create it, you're first going to need to get yourself a GitHub account. So you do need to become familiar with GitHub. There's an introduction to GitHub here that you were supposed to read about, which eventually will allow you to create an account and create a first repository. Then you're going to go to the Tuckfolios GitHub project, which is over here, and you're going to go scroll down to the Quick Start. And in the Quick Start, you're going to follow these instructions. Presumably, you've already joined GitHub and you've signed up, and then you're going to get this. You're going to fork this thing, and you're going to configure a template, or you're going to configure for GitHub pages actually first. Then you're going to fork your project, and so you just follow these instructions. Again, you might find it a little bit complicated, but you'll get through it. Then when you're finished with that, you're going to probably want to take a look at the 10-minute introduction to JSON here and figure out how to modify the Tuckfolio bio JSON. In any case, take a look at these kinds of things. We'll talk more about this in class, and you just want to be familiar with it. When you come to class, at very least, you should be familiar with what you need to do. Okay, so that's it for now. I will see you in class.